Good evening, everyone. We will start by 5 p.m. Till then, ask your friends, your classmates to join on time. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We extend a warm welcome to you all for the second Green Talk organized under the third version of the Adopt a Plant Plantation Drive, an initiative under Swachhta Pakhwada banner project by the Government of India. I wish you all a happy Gandhi Jayanti and Shastri Jayanti. We celebrate the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi and his teachings. We firmly believe in one of his teachings that you must be the change you wish to see in the world. Adopt a Plant Challenge Drive is a virtual plantation drive and is organized in collaboration with Lowsoot Private Limited, an organization that aims to drive the world towards carbon neutrality by bringing together individuals and organizations to erase and reduce their carbon footprint. Before beginning with the session, I would like to give a brief introduction about Haritima, our visions and ideologies. Haritima is one of the registered society of Hansraj College. Every initiative taken by the society aims at the well-being of the environment and creating awareness among the youth about their contributions and responsibilities towards nature. Our commitment towards the environment is clearly visible in our four projects, and we have project million more that aims to plant 10 lakh trees in Delhi in 5 years in Delhi NCR. Under this project, we have successfully organized two plantation drives and many more other green programs. Next, we have Project Hans Chetna, which is an awareness centered project that aims at educating young children about emerging and pre existing environmental issues. Apart from this, we have Frames, which is a nature photography club, and Animal Project, which attempts to provide direct aid to street animals and assist the rescuers. Through its various projects and wings, Haritima is dedicated to create a green and sustainable environment. And with this idea in mind, I would now request Neha to introduce our speaker for today and the topic for the day. Over to you, Neha.
Thank you, Palak, for the warm introduction. Moving forward, I would like to wholeheartedly welcome our speaker of the day, Mr. Kapil Mandawewala. Welcome, sir, the founder and CEO of Edible Roots. He worked for Deloitte Consulting in San Francisco as a senior consultant for 5 years. He also started organic farming at his 22-acre farmland in Gujarat. His initiative to establish a community supported agriculture system and then this foundation of Edible Roots really motivates us to grow more and more food crops on our farmlands. Since 2018, he has been certified by Rosemary Morrow as a permaculture teacher and designer. With the Edible Roots team, he has created more than 1,000 edible gardens and manages 25 farms in Delhi, NCR, Uttarakhand, Orissa, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, and Gujarat. His enthusiasm and will to grow plants makes us learn a lot from him. And we feel extremely delighted to have him to enlighten us on the topic gardening, a device for modern environments sustainability, through which he will be teaching us the methods and techniques to grow plants in a manner to achieve sustainable development that the whole world aspires to fulfill today. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of Haritima Society and Hansraj College. We are grateful to you for accepting our invitation and gracing us with your presence. I would like to mention that the address would be followed by the question and answer segment. Therefore, the participants may pose their queries in the chat box, which will be taken up later. We will also be circulating an attendance form at the end of the session, which has marking criteria for our plantation drive, Adopt a Plant Challenge 3.0. So, be with us throughout the session. I request all the participants to turn on their cameras and keep their mics mute and kindly maintain the decorum of the webinar. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Neha. Can you guys hear me okay?
Sure, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the voice is audible and are you able to see me well as well?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, great. So before we begin, I would just like to, while Neha said that we'll do Q&A at the end, I prefer to keep the sessions interactive. That way I can get more feedback during the session about what you guys would like to talk about, and if you have any questions about something that I'm talking about as well. So if you have any questions, I think there's an option in this software to raise your hand, or you can just put a hashtag in the chat box, and that way I'll know that you want to speak, and I'll call your name, and then that way we can have a conversation and not multiple people speaking at the same time. And if you're not speaking, then make sure that you're on mute so that it doesn't disturb the rest of the session. Okay, so I want to just briefly introduce, first of all, a little bit about my journey, and also what we do as an organization, as Edible Roots. So, and then we will move into discussion around what sustainability means to us, to me, to you, and how gardening, or specifically what we do as an organization, urban gardening, can be a tool, can be a medium to become more sustainable as a city, as a planet, as an institution, as an individual. So that's sort of the idea for today. And if at any point in time, if you have any questions, just put a hashtag or raise your hand. If it's relevant, I'll call upon you, or I'll wait for the appropriate time. So if you have a question, just leave it there, and I'll take a note of it. So my journey started with my education being in information systems, finance, working with Deloitte, as Neha mentioned, and then this was I worked for about 5 years, and then in about 2008, I I was by this time I'd already become very frustrated with my job that I was doing, and I wanted to figure out what I want to do, what is my passion, and realize that if I want to be truly happy, then I have to be doing what I'm passionate about. With this realization, I did some introspection. A few realizations I had was around uh, that I'm really passionate about health and food, and through some discussions with friends and family and mentors, I realized that farming might be a good place to start, because farming is where our entire food system is broken down with the pesticides and chemicals and adulteration. So, so our health is directly linked to that, and luckily my family also has some land in Gujarat, which is where I came back in 2008 and I started farming organically, trying to grow healthier food so that people eat healthier. With that simple idea, I came back. I did not have a much vision beyond that at that point in time. The idea was simple, that I'll just grow some good healthy food and see where that goes. That journey eventually, the farm happened. I had my successes, I had my failures. Eventually, after a few years, a few friends and family asked me to help with urban gardening. Urban gardening being the idea of growing in urban spaces. It could be a balcony, a backyard, a rooftop, uh, or any space within an urban city. It could be a park, a community space, a school ground, any space, even a factory or a rooftop of a factory. So all these spaces that might belong to an urban space where you grow food is known as urban gardening. So through some family friends requesting me to help them with theirs, I got curious about this whole idea of growing in urban spaces. Gradually, I learned a bit about that along with the normal farming that I was doing, and that's when I started doing some workshops to create more awareness around growing food in urban spaces and how to do it, the right techniques for it, and then we also started helping people by going to their places, helping them get started with their gardens, supporting them in their journey of growing, providing the technical support or knowledge they might require. So this is how the journey started. In 2016, we got registered as Edible Roots as an organization. At that time, we were about 5 people. Today, we're about a team of 20. And as an organization, today we do about 5 different things. The two things that we originally started, we still continue to do, which is the kitchen gardens. We help people get them started and maintain the gardens and support them in whatever way they need, in terms of providing materials or knowledge or services. And of course, we still do workshops and webinars and sessions like these to create more and more awareness around growing food. Thirdly, what we also do now is we also help people establish farms, organic farms for their own private use if they have it, or if they have larger farms and they want to grow commercially but in an organic manner, in a natural manner. So we help them set up these farms as well. Fourthly, we also have a concept called farmlets. What happened once we started doing kitchen gardens is people really got fond of doing it, but they realized that the spaces within their houses, which could be a balcony or a rooftop or a backyard, was not enough to grow all the food requirements that the family had. So the idea behind farmlets came about because there's a lot of land in and around our cities which is lying vacant, perfectly farmable, but it's not being utilized because it's now shifted. The ownership has shifted from the farmers to other people who have the money or who just want to buy the land. So the idea behind farmlets is to create small mini farms within this larger farm. Currently, we have a size of 1,200 square feet, and that's based on the size of a single family, 2 to 3 people. They pay us a monthly subscription fee, and we help them again with all the knowledge, support, labor, and some people also engage themselves. So they visit once a week. We deliver the vegetables to them once a week. So the idea is to create more and more ways for them to engage in growing their food as much as possible, and and so that they know the three what I call as the three fundamental questions about our food. Um, the three fundamental questions being: who is growing it, where is it being grown, and how is it being grown? So if we go back 50 years or 100 years, what we will um, realize or notice is that most of our food was grown right around us. Most of the fresh things like vegetables and fruits were growing in our own gardens or backyards or front yards or a neighbor's plot. That's how the fresh things came about, and all the grains and cereals and pulses and oils, they would be growing in and around the village or a neighboring village. but the food was very, very close to us. And because of it was being close to us, we knew answers to these three questions: who is growing it, where it is being grown, and how it is being grown. Over the last 100 years or so, the food has gone farther and farther from us as to where it's growing. Today, the average distance the food travels in India is about 800 kilometers. So, because the food is so far, obviously we lose the answers to these questions, and losing these answers has led to all the adulteration and chemicals and pesticides in our entire food supply chain. Because now the farmer is disassociated and disconnected with the consumer, and they don't see the face of that person. So it's easier for them to spray chemicals on it, knowing that it's poison. They keep a separate patch for growing for their own family and a separate patch where they grow to sell to the larger world. So this is sort of the scenario. The fifth thing that we do is also we have a shop, an e-commerce website, where now we connect all of our these farmlands that we work on and farmers that we know around the country. We help them directly connect to the urban consumer, so that more and more urban people know about their food. And when I say know about their food, it means knowing those three answers again: who is growing it, where it's being grown, and how it's being grown. So this is what we do as an organization now. What I want to start out with is ask you guys, what does urban farming or gardening, and even more importantly, what does the term sustainable mean to you? Today we see that word being used all around. It's being very loosely used, but what does truly something sustainable mean? If you have any thoughts, you can share, you can raise your hand, you can put a hashtag, and then you can speak. Anyone? From here, it's all interactive, guys. I have given my speech. So you have to get back to, you have to speak so that we have a nice discussion, and that's how we have a nice conversation. What does the idea of sustainable mean to you?
Sir, it may mean using resources in a way that it will not harm the environment.
Can you repeat that, please?
So using the resources in a way that it will not harm the environment.
Okay, using our resources in a way it won't harm the environment. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else wants to add anything?
Using resources in a way that it does not harm the environment, as well as it does not compromise with the future needs.
Compromise with?
Our future needs, future requirements.
Our future needs. So our present does not compromise the future, and we do not harm the environment. Okay. Anything else? Let me think of. Let me give you an example. So nowadays we hear this whole idea is there that organic food is very expensive. Do you guys agree with that? Do you guys have a feeling, or have you heard that stories that organic food is expensive? So if organic food is expensive, this whole idea of organic food, as we hear it in the media, or at least in the out there, is that sustainable? The fact that if it's very expensive, and the fact that means that it may not be accessible to everyone, does that make it sustainable? Or being, I wouldn't say everyone, but being accessible to a large number of people, is that also a domain of sustainability? Any thoughts? What about, so what I'm talking about is what is called as I see sustainability under three pillars, the three lenses, as I would call it. One is, of course, the environmental one, which was mentioned by Nishita, that we do not harm the environment in any way. But the two other equally important pillars of sustainability are also economic, which means that when you do something, or when you're evaluating something, whether it's sustainable or not, whether it's economically viable for most of the people. Okay, so the economic sustainability is also an important part. And the third is the social sustainability, the angle from a social dimension, that is it inclusive of the community? Is it inclusive of the general people around you, or is it restricted to a very small number of people? So whenever we evaluate something, whether it's being sustainable or not, it has to be seen through all the three lenses. So sometimes when you might think, typically the most common thread or thought that is now out there is that if something is not harming the environment, then it's sustainable. Uh, but I think that's a limited view of it. You have to also look at the social angle of it and the economic angle of it. Unless all the three pillars are met, then that idea or that thought or that action or that thing may not be truly sustainable. So that's where I come from. Okay, so now we talk about urban farming and gardening. I just want to hear again from you guys a bit. What do any of you guys grow something in your homes, around you, wherever you are working, studying, living? Is anybody who grows anything?
Yes, I do have a terrace garden at my home, and it does include some of the basic spices. Like we have the curry leaves that we grow, that we can easily grow at home, and that is what I would want to ask you. If someone want to start an organic garden as a beginner, what all fruits and vegetables can they grow at their houses?
Okay, I'll note that. Can you put that question in the chat box? I'll keep a note of it.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay. So what all you said? Curry leaves, and what else were you growing? Currently, what are you growing?
Coriander and curry leaves and all these.
Okay. And are you actively participating in managing the garden, or somebody else manages it at the home?
No, sir. We take turns. As a family, we all take care of it.
We all take turns. Okay. So, and have you ever eaten or prepared food or used the ingredients from your kitchen garden in your food?
Yes, I haven't prepared, but I have consumed the food from the kitchen
Okay.
garden.
And do you feel there's a difference to that as compared to what you buy in the market whenever you use your kitchen garden ingredients? Is there any difference or is it the same?
We do feel the difference, but since it's not the most basic ingredient that we use, like curry leaves and coriander are something that we use to like it's not the basic ingredient for making anything, so the difference is not that
Correct.
evident.
But not evident. Understand. Okay. And 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 how do you feel, even if you're growing just 2 or 3 plants at home, whether it's curry leaves and coriander, do you feel that growing those things has any impact on sustainability of your house, of the city, or of your society, or of this planet? Does that have any impact to it? Do you feel does it make any difference?
I feel that every small step makes a difference. So these are the plants that we use, that we consume. Apart from that, we also have many other plants that we grow at our home. So I do feel that it helps the environment, and it does help in sustainability as well. Even though it's just the coriander leaves do not cost much, but they do help if we grow them at places.
Okay. Okay. So I need more participation from more of you guys. Who for all the things that you eat or what you ate today, for example, do you guys have answers to those three questions? Who grew it? Where was it grown? And how was it grown? Is there any, even if there's any one thing that you ate today for which you know those three answers? None? Okay. I can't see everyone's faces also. Just one sec.
So would you please repeat your questions?
My question is that what I call is the three fundamental questions about our food. Who is growing it? Where is it being grown? And how is it being grown? So I want to ask you guys whether there's anything that you ate today or in the last few days for which you know the answers to those three questions about that thing that you ate. वो कहाँ उगाया गया था, किसने उगाया था, कैसे उगाया था?
So as such, there is not a perfect information regarding the same. We can only have an intuition that maybe the farmers or the farming family is taking care of the plants. They are doing this in their farmlands, and maybe they can like planting these plants as a organic farming, or maybe as a like using fertilizers or chemical fertilizers. So it is all based on intuition and general understanding. We don't have a perfect information regarding the same.
Let me ask you the very basic. Do you guys feel that our food is fine the way it is in today's world? Is it okay? What
No,
do you
not
feel
at
about
all.
our food today? What do you feel like? Whatever you're eating in terms of its quality, in terms of its utility for your health, for meeting your body's needs, is how where do you place the food? Is it even important?
Definitely, sir. Like today's food is not that much pure or that much efficient. We do know this. Like maybe tomato, chilies, all these vegetables are not that much pure. But we don't have another choice too, because organic farming is not that much famous and available everywhere. And also there is a cost point that we can't ignore it. Cost is there. Like most of the people cannot afford the organic products.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So what do you feel? So one is the chemicals and pesticides and all of that. Are there any other things that you guys have heard about as to what might be the problems with the food system today?
Now the food is not seasonal.
Food is not seasonal. I think that's a very good point. And can you give me an example? Which food we might be eating that's off season?
Like, we can eat every fruit like lychee, mangoes. They are available like 12 months.
Practically throughout the year. So what is the season for lychee and mango?
Winters? I don't know.
Summer season.
So pardon? Summers. Yeah, this is mostly in the summer.
Summer
Yeah.
season.
Okay, so I think that's a very good point. See, the other thing is also that nowadays we don't even know what is the right season for something because it's available throughout the year. So that's why we don't even realize
Exactly.
that what is something that's the right season for something. So I think that's a very valid point, and because of it not being seasonal, it also means that do you think there's any connection to the right season and growing things in the right season and the use of chemicals and pesticides? Is there any correlation between that? If I'm growing something in season, will that require more chemicals and more pesticides or less as compared to growing out of season?
Less chemicals.
Less.
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 So I think that's where Ria's point comes into place. That of course eating something that's more seasonal is also more sustainable because now you're spraying less chemicals, and that means it's causing less impact on the environment. Am I conveying your point correctly, Ria?
Yes, 100%.
I can.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So anything else? What else? So we figured chemicals, pesticides not being seasonal. What about freshness? Is freshness important?
Yes, sir, definitely. Freshness is very important in any food.
And where how so we all eat vegetables and fruits on a daily basis. How long do you think? How long ago was it harvested? Typically, like how many days before or how many hours before was it harvested before you eat it? Any thoughts?
Maybe a
A
week ago.
month?
Maybe a month. Okay. Okay.
It depends upon the refrigerator.
So okay. Okay.
Like it
Okay.
will
Let
store
me
and
ask
it
you a
can
different
use the
question.
refrigerator.
Has any of you been to a farm or somebody's garden where something was growing and you plucked it and ate it? Have you ever experienced that?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes.
Yes, sir.
okay, some of you have. So
Yes,
for
sir.
those of you who have, do you feel there's any difference when you pluck and eat and when you buy something in the market and eat that same thing? Is there a difference?
I never felt any difference.
You never felt a difference. What have you eaten?
A guava, I had a guava plant in my farm. So I
Okay.
used to eat that. And
Okay. And you
I've
feel
also eaten market one.
okay, and you
So
feel it's the
I
same?
don't, yeah, pretty much it was same.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody who has eaten something felt differently about eating from plucking and eating? Okay. So From what I know, in about 24 hours, the nutritional density of our food becomes half after it's harvested. Okay, so if I pluck a tomato today or if I pluck spinach leaves today and I eat them a day later, if today 1 kilo of spinach had, let's say, 100 grams of calcium, tomorrow that same 1 kilo will have 50 grams left. Another day later, it's going to have only 25 grams left. So every 24 hours, practically the nutritional density, as we call it, and it's not just calcium, it's all the minerals that exist in nature that our body needs. Uh, Whatever food we eat, the longer it has been since it was harvested and the time we eat, the nutritional density is constantly going down. It also correlates directly to the flavor. So when we eat something and we find it something very, very nice tasting, it's because it's also fresh, because that corresponds to nutritional density, which also corresponds to flavor. So freshness is of course also very important. One more thought I had. What about connection? Like, do you feel that is there any bond between us and our food that we eat? Like we have bond with our friends and our family. Do you think is there any bond between our food and what we eat? Is anybody here fond of cooking and preparing food? Even if
Yes,
it's
many
maggi,
of
even if it's
us.
maggi, that's fine.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So
Yes,
do
sir.
you feel a difference when you prepare the food by yourself and eat it, and when somebody else is making it? I'm assuming you're a good cook
Yeah.
then only. Otherwise, of course,
I'm not a good cook, so I feel the difference.
so you like your mom's food better?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want to just convey to you guys, that this whole idea of gardening, and I would encourage that you guys try it. That's my um, sort of giveaway this for this session, is that I suggest that you at least try. Nishita and I think Palak, I don't know, one of you mentioned that you are already growing something on your rooftop. So, but I really suggest that you try growing at least a couple of plants. You can get a pot, and this was one of the questions that she had also as to what we can grow. I suggest you start with a simple pot. I have lots of videos on our YouTube channel. You can go and check it out as to how to get started and all that. But simply you get a pot, put some good soil and compost in it, and then find some seeds that you can grow. If you don't know where the seed shop is, a lot of the seeds are inside your house, like dhania or methi or chilies. These seeds are typical. Even if you get a ripe tomato, and if you just cut the tomato, all tomatoes have seeds in them. You can just put the ripe tomato seeds in the soil, and they'll grow. So the reason I want to encourage you is because the way this whole idea of gardening, and we have done thousands of gardens now around Delhi, and now we're doing around the country as well. The difference that I see that comes around is that when you start growing that one plant, okay, when you start growing that one plant, and if you are doing it in a conscious manner, then you will definitely notice when you eat the harvest of that plant that it feels significantly different. It feels different for many reasons that we discussed: the freshness, the fact that you grew it, so there's a certain bond you share with it, the fact that it's grown organically, because if you're growing yourself, you're not putting any chemicals in it. But when you start doing this, it brings about a shift in your life, because what will happen when you eat that and you find that it's so different, you will become curious about all the other things that are in your life as well, all the other things that you're eating. But also what will happen is you'll start becoming more sensitive towards the environment. Okay, because suddenly if you bond with your plant, if you bond with what you're growing, then that plant will tell you someday that today it's very hot for me, or I need more water, or today it's very dry or sunny. In various ways the plant will talk to you, and that talking of the plant will also make you more sensitive to the environment, because suddenly now you're aware of the pollution, of the sunlight, of the temperatures, of the humidity. Everything suddenly you become more present in the moment and more aware of your environment. So when we talk about sustainability, and as we discussed earlier, one of the key factors is of course the environmental aspect of it. But what also happens, and if you're lucky enough to have a space in your school or your college or where you live, if you're able to create a garden where you're growing some food, it also becomes a place for what we call as community. It becomes a place where you come together, where you can share. I'm sure whenever you have had a party or where you gather together as a friends and family, and when you enjoy food in that way, it's a very different feeling as compared to eating in individually or in a small group of person, because the whole idea around food is also bringing the social dimension together, the community together, which is what is also a very deep angle of growing your own food, because it brings the surroundings. So suddenly, so for example, I have a garden right here, so there's a whole village around, and my garden is accessible to everyone because I travel a lot. So they I tell them openly that you can come, they can harvest my pumpkin or chili, something or the other is always growing, and I can't even eat all of it. But because of that, suddenly a community has formed around this garden. A lot of people know me, I know them, we interact, and things happen. The third thing is, of course, that when you start growing at least some of it, of course, initially, if you're just growing a few pots, it won't make a big difference. But eventually, if you get involved in the act of growing your food to a larger extent, it can really make an economic difference also in terms of being able to reduce your costs of the food or a family's need for food that they have on a monthly basis. So this whole idea of gardening can really make a difference to your awareness about not only the environmental aspect but also the social aspect and also the economic aspect of it. So that's where I feel that the gardening is an important aspect. One more thing I want to talk about is, and I think it was somewhere mentioned, I think by Krishna also, that we feel that the farmers will take care of our food and grow it well and provide it to us well. This is one of the myth that our modern society has developed, that I feel two things, especially being in urban cities, two things that we really have illusioned ourselves with. One is food and the second is waste. So when you buy a packet of chips, you don't think about the chips inside you only think about the chips inside the packet, but not the packet itself. When you buy a bottle of Coke or water or juice, again, you only think about the juice or the water inside, but not the container itself. When we are making choices of buying anything or spending our money on anything, that choice has an impact on the entire thing that you buy. It includes the contents and also the packaging. And somewhere we feel that, okay, even with all the recycling and all the awareness now around waste management, we still feel that sometimes we put it in the dustbin, and once we put it in the dustbin, even if it's segregated, somewhere we feel that our responsibility is over. Our responsibility is done. So with two things, food and waste, I think we as a society, as a planet, and one of you mentioned about what sustainability means is living a better planet for the future, or having a better planet for the future, then it comes down to taking responsibility of two very fundamental choices in our lives. One is food and one is waste. So when you start growing, suddenly you'll realize that you have all this kitchen waste like peels and jutha or whatever, the excess part of the kitchen that is not consumed but is usually going away. When you start composting, a simple act of composting at home, for example, your kitchen waste, what you will see is that the kitchen waste becomes compost. The compost goes into your garden. The garden gives you food. Again, you consume the food and there's a waste. What this simple act, this simple circle makes you aware of is that everything in nature is cyclical. In nature, there is no concept of waste. It's a human created thing. If humans were not there would be no waste on this planet. If humans were not there would be no dearth of food also on this planet. All other species are taken care of. It's only the humans who have this idea of scarcity, who have this idea of waste. And all of that comes down because somewhere we feel that it's a responsibility of somebody else. The government will take care of it, the farmer will take care of it, some other authority will take care of it. But what it comes down to is realizing that food and waste is our responsibility. So what that means is knowing, in terms of food, who is growing it, where and how. Once you start knowing those three answers to those three questions, so today in my life, about 70-80% of what I eat, I know those three answers. That's because somewhere I got involved in this. Of course, helping others makes it easier. And because I'm now connected with so many farms, I go to farmers markets, I go and meet farmers, and you'll be surprised. The food actually has become much more cheaper for me, even what I'm buying, because now I'm buying directly from the farmer. And right now, in the current food system, the food travels through many middlemen, from the farmer to the mandi to the broker or the wholesaler to the retailer to the rediwala to us. So because of that, the food that the farmer gets about a quarter or a fifth of what you pay. So if you're buying tomatoes at 40 rupees a kilo today, the farmer is only getting about 5 to 10 rupees for it. So where is the remaining 30-35 rupees going? So that's going in this whole middle chain. But it's not only the loss, the economic loss, it's also the loss of wastage, because the more it travels, more food gets spoiled. It also means loss of freshness, because the more it travels, the less and less fresh it is. So that's where growing food, or at least starting to take responsibility of knowing your food, becomes very important, knowing the farmer. So I'm sure you have some connections to some village or wherever you live. If you just make an effort, I'm sure you can find some things. So if you go to Rediwala, or sometimes there are local farmer markets now in the city as well, in various localities. So you can go and ask them, "Aapka khana kahan ugta hai? Ye kahan ugate ho? How do you grow it?" Just by simply asking those questions, you start taking some control of your food. Not thinking that the government will take care of it, because they are not. They will never do. The farmers will not think about you unless you become their friends and you make a relationship with them. If we are constantly going to be disconnected with them, then this is always going to be there. And then when it comes to waste, there's this whole idea of in very simplistic sense, we have to take responsibility for everything that we buy, including the contents and the package and how it was transported. Like if you buy something from Amazon, so in Amazon, even if you buy a pen or some stationery, एक तो उसका packaging है the material it's made of. Then it's packed into something. Then if you see those Amazon boxes, they're stuffed with so much thermocol or plastic and this and that, and then the cardboard box that it's covered with. All of that thing that was needed to, or a mobile phone, for example. A mobile phone, when you buy a mobile phone, it comes in this fancy cardboard box first. You open it, inside there's another box. Inside there's another sort of a stand, and then there's the phone, then there's some paper. All of those things. When you think about something, how it's packaged and how it's sent to you, the three pillars, we talk about economic, social, and environmental sustainability. What does it mean? If we haven't thought about where that phone was made, all the energy that went into making it, all the energy that went into the packaging of it, in transporting it, in disposing of the materials that were used to make it, the biggest issue that we're facing as a planet right now is electronic waste, digital waste that we have, because all these obsolete computers and phones are now just, and I'm sure if you've gone around Delhi, you must have seen that landfill around Jahangirpuri. I don't know what that area is called. Then there's one near Ghaziabad. Then there's one near Faridabad. Have you seen those hills, the mountains? That's what we have created. So that's a glaring example in front of us that we are doing something that's not sustainable. Do you think that's sustainable? So waste, food, I think that they are very interconnected. Making our choices in a conscious way, that's conscious consumerism, that wherever you buy, you think about. So I'll give you positive examples now. I always carry cutlery with me. I always carry cloth bags with me. Sometimes if I forget, I make a choice not to buy. Even if I'm thirsty, I don't buy a water bottle. I'll drink when I get home, when I get to work, or when I get to some friend's place where I can drink water. So that's a choice you make. Convenience is all around us. Everything is available around us, but we have to make a choice, and that choices that we make are sustainable or unsustainable. So that's and knowing what sustainable means. It simply means that what is the impact of the action you're going to take in these three pillars. Is it environmentally sustainable, economically sustainable, socially sustainable? And if you just think about the food and the waste that we have, I think that itself will make a big difference. And it's an individual level thing. It's a very individual thing. If all of us start doing it, gradually the planet will change. So that's where I feel that sustainability comes from. It's at a very singular level of responsibility in terms of our food, because food is the most primary necessity that we have as humans. You can live without a house also. Okay, you can live without clothes also, but you can't live without food. That's the most primary necessity that we have. and of course the waste. Because if we don't manage our waste, we are soon going to be buried under it ourselves. So I'll stop here, and if you guys have any questions, I'll go from here on that. I see some comments over here. So we grow tomato at home, but after a few days only, and that's what can we do for that? Okay. So I see that a lot of you have questions, technical questions about growing food. I specifically have sessions, recorded sessions, webinars on each aspect of growing food. If any of you are interested, just reach out to me. I'll help you out. Okay. So these are about an hour or 2 hour long sessions. They cover each aspect of how to get started, how to plant, how to take care, how to handle the pest and the disease, how to harvest. All of those things are covered in that. Generally, I charge for them, but for you guys, I'll make it available for free. So just message me if you want it, and so that you can learn and get. Because I really want you to get started. Just start with one pot, few pots, plant a tomato, plant a chili, plant some spinach, whatever you like. So I want to encourage you for you all to do that. So I'll make that knowledge available to you. So there's some tips for people who want to do organic farming. Okay, and research gardening is good for health, of course. So gardening is of course good. So there are many benefits to gardening besides the basic things I talked about. That one, that you'll be more outdoors. If you are living in a city which is having at least better air, then you'll be more breathing better air if you're outdoors. The whole idea of engaging with the soil, that itself is therapeutic. It heals your body. The fact that because nowadays we're very sensitive about touching things here and there, but if you just play with mud, if you play with soil, that itself heals your body. There's a certain grounding, magical aspect to just being in soil. Kavita is saying from micro sustainability to macro sustainability. Can I understand what you're trying to say, Kavita, with that?
Kavita, you can unmute yourself and can ask your question directly.
Well, I think she's just commenting something. I just want to understand it better, what she's trying to say.
Sir, I am saying that from small things we have to sustainable small things, and then only at a cosmic level we can sustainable all the things.
I think that's a very good point that you made. Now I understand what you're trying to say. Because nowadays we think about, we'll make this huge solar farms or wind farms, or we'll build electric cars and this and that. So those are all good things. I'm not going against them. But that's at the macro level. But the true difference will come at a very micro level, which is taking individual responsibility for our actions. And you can only take responsibility when you understand whether that action of yours is sustainable or not. So for that, you have to even understand what sustainable means. It means knowing it through these three lenses: economic, social, and environmental. Environmental is only just one of them. You will see the other two angles also. Whether my action, see a lot of the things that we can do on this planet. For example, let's say I go fishing in a lake nearby. Okay, I don't eat fish, but let's say if I go fishing nearby, if I'm the only one doing it, the lake will be sustainable, the village will be sustainable, my house will be sustainable. But what will happen when somebody sees me and the remaining 100 people around me start doing it? What's going to happen to that lake? So sometimes the actions are sustainable at an individual scale, but if you see the long-term impact of it on a macro scale, that same action becomes unsustainable. So that's why we see that all of our oceans, our rivers are getting depleted, because it was not just because somebody took little water out of it or little fish out of it. It's because when everybody starts doing it. So sometimes we have to also see our actions from that lens, that that I have to take responsibility about what I do. It might not mean much by you just doing it, but by you doing it, everybody starts thinking that I can do it, and what is the impact of that? So I think that's a very good point Kavita has made, from micro sustainability to macro sustainability. The individual responsibility is the key thing over here. What else? Any questions, any thoughts, any comments? Nishita is asking, what are your views on including gardening in education curriculum? I think it's a must. And it should start very early. Start as early as kindergarten. So because I think, not only because of the many benefits that we talked about, but somewhere I feel gardening or growing anything for that matter uh, can be a tool, a medium to understand our world and also understand all the subjects that we study about. So if you start gardening, you suddenly have to learn about physics, about chemistry, about biology, even about maths, because you have to count, oh, how many seeds do I plant here and there. So gardening in itself can become a tool to understand all the things that we're already studying anyways. And uh, and more importantly, I think we, at least me, and from what I understand, there are various ways that we learn. So for example, we learn by observing. Okay, we learn by listening. We learn by touching. That's called kinesthetic learning. By when you touch something, you learn. So if you see young children, infants, a few months old or a year old, they will like to touch everything. They'll play with their hands because that's the only way they learn. Up to 7 years of age, humans mostly learn only by touching. That's the only thing they understand. Hands. That's the only language they know. So even if they have soil in their hands, they'll try to eat it. Everything they're touching, and because that's their sense of learning at that point in time. And in general, that sense of learning stays through the heart. So then we start understanding things about feelings and emotions and things like that. And then finally, after about 14, 15 years of age, we really start learning things intellectually, which is through the head. So there's also a system of education called the Waldorf system. It was started by a scientist, or not scientist, but some philosopher called Rudolf Steiner. Um, if you guys want, you can research on it. It's called Waldorf. It's a system of education based on real understanding how, as humans, we learn. So and gardening, Rudolf Steiner is also known for a system of farming called biodynamic farming, which takes into account the cosmic forces, the gravitational force, the lunar patterns, the zodiacs, and all of that is taken into account when we grow things. So he in his education system, he really emphasizes, and in a lot of, we also work with a lot of schools and we work with children. We do a lot of workshops for children. So I think gardening can be a really therapeutic tool as well, but also at the same time something that grounds us, something that keeps us connected with our food. What else? Any other thoughts? Any questions? If food packaging material, candy packets, chips packets, etc., is made recyclable, then I think half of the problem of this planet will be solved. What do you think? I disagree. See, this is a very, 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 very I don't know what's the term for it, but it's a way of deluding ourselves, putting ourselves under illusion that when we say something is recyclable or when something is reusable, that we are being more sustainable and more conscious. We've heard of those 3 R's. Have you heard of those 3 R's? Reuse, recycle. There's sessions we do on conscious consumerism, and in that we have 10 R's. 10 R's. So I won't go into all the 10 R's, but the first R we start with is called reject. R, reject. Reject means you don't choose something that you don't need. That's the first thing. So a lot of times we make choices just because we think, oh, this is recyclable, let's buy it. So the first thing, sustainability comes down to our need. No, like what do we really need? Gandhiji has a very famous quote. Today happens to be 2nd October. We have enough for our needs, but not enough for our greed. So the first level of choice, the first level of awareness has to come, whether I even need it or not. Whether it's recyclable or reusable, that's a different story altogether. So I think the first is reject. Then there's many R's that come in between. The reuse and recycle come much later in the scene. But the idea being that somewhere we have to become conscious about each and every choice, because it's not just about something being reusable or recyclable. To make it reusable or recyclable, how much energy will go into it? How much energy went into it, into making it in the first place? Just because it's recyclable and reusable doesn't mean that it was free of cost. It had a certain environmental, had a social, and had an economic impact. So I'm not saying don't buy things. I'm just saying that be conscious about it. Just because you think something is recyclable or reusable, that does not make it sustainable. You have to know the energy, what is called as, I forget the term, Embodied energy is the word for it. What took for that thing to be made and got to you, and what will it take for it to get recycled again? How much energy was spent to make it, how much energy was spent to get it to you, how much energy was spent in consuming it, and how much energy is going to get spent in reusing it or recycling it. All of that energy, if that is too high, then it's not sustainable. So just because something is reusable or recyclable, we have to become still conscious about it. Okay. How to ensure proper health and maintenance of the plants if you're using pots and containers. I think one point that one of you mentioned was to grow seasonally. I think as long as you do that, just know the right seasons. And I know in today's times it's hard to figure out what's the right season. So if you guys ask me for it, I'll send you a planting calendar. I have a planting calendar for Delhi so that you know in which month what I should plant. As long as you plant seasonally, trust me, you'll be fine. So just get the right seeds, get good healthy soil, put some compost, get a pot that's big enough. One of the biggest mistakes I see that people do when they start gardening, they have a big pot like that, but they'll only fill the soil only half of it. The soil, the plants get all their nutrition and food through the roots. So we have to give as much root area that they can get so that they get maximum nutrition. So one is get the right size of pots for the right plant. So again, it's very easy. The small plants like spinach and dhania, they can grow in 4, 5 inches, 6 inches of soil. If you have big plants like tomato and chili and brinjal or loki or tori, you will need at least 1.5 feet of soil. So bigger the plant, the more root depth they need. That's one common mistake that I see that people make. They don't get the right amount of soil or root depth that their plants need. Other than that, just grow in the right season. Make sure that you water them. Don't water them too much because that's also a common mistake. The plants only need moisture. They don't need water. So just make sure the soil is slightly moist and they'll be happy. So water them well, give them some khad. If you make your kitchen compost that, or you can buy some organic compost from the market, or if you have a cow nearby, get some gobar ka khad and put that in there. And that's about it. It's very easy. Nature does the rest. That's the best thing about it. Any more
Thank you,
questions?
sir.
There's almost 30, 35 of you here, but I don't see many questions or comments. How to make home kitchen compost. That's also a very good one. There are many ways. I'm just thinking of an easier way for you guys to know. See, it depends on where you live and what kind of space you have available. So most of us live in the cities. So I'm assuming we either have a small backyard or a balcony or some space in the kitchen or on the rooftop. So generally small space, not a very large space that we have like a farm or a land. So if you have a small space, then you would need some sort of a container because you don't want your house to be littered with all the kachra and all of that. So you will need some sort of container. Now, composting happens broadly in two ways, anaerobic and aerobic. You must have learned this in your school times in your biology and all of that. So aerobic and anaerobic. Both systems are out there available. There's a system of, there's like a bin available in the market. It's called Smart Bin or Trust Bin. These are commercial companies that sell these bins. And this is an anaerobic way of composting. So you can buy one of those bins, you just dump all your kitchen waste in that, and it has instructions that they give you, and then you follow that. Another way to do it is to do aerobically. Aerobically means that you use a container that is breathable. So like terracotta pots, like a matka or a cardboard box, something that will breathe. A good company to know for that also is called Daily Dump. They're a Bangalore-based company, but they work all around the country now, and they have lots of videos on their site. But in aerobic composting, the idea is to balance your kitchen waste, which is usually very wet, with something dry. Okay, so something dry can be like dry leaves. Like if there's a park around your house, you can get the leaves from there, the dried leaves. Or you can get some, if there's a carpenter nearby, you can get all the lakdi ka burada, the bhusa and all of that. Or if you have shredded paper or shredded newspaper or shredded cardboard, you can use that. But something that's brown, something that's going to burn. Anything that will burn is brown. Okay, that's what you need, some carbon. So you take one layer of kitchen waste and three times the thickness of brown waste. It might seem a lot, but what happens over time is it gets compressed. Okay, so you get a container that's breathable. and you do simple thing layering. Kitchen waste one day, you put some brown mass on top of it, some leaves or some cardboard or some paper or some uh, carpenter shavings of wood, and then you keep alternating, and then you leave it aside for about a month or so, and you fill up another container. So you need 2 containers at least. You start with that, and I have videos on my YouTube channel for all of this. So you can see that also. All of these things are there on edible roots. I'm going to put the name of the website here, and then the rest you will figure out. We have an Insta page also. We have a website also with the same name. Everything is with the same name, Edible Roots. We have a YouTube channel also, Facebook also. So you can go, and a lot of the knowledge is available out there for free. So I think that's, if you want to see a visual way of it, I'm demonstrating in that, or one of my colleagues is demonstrating it as to how to do things. But the basic idea is it's the same name, Edible Roots. Just type Edible YouTube, and then you go to Edible Roots. That's the name. It's actually 2 words, Edible Roots, but it's put together. YouTube, Instagram, everything is at the same name. Facebook, everything is the same name. Yeah. Okay. What else? Any more thoughts? Any more questions? Any feedback for me about what I could have done differently to make the session more interesting for you guys?
Thank you, sir. The session was really informative for all of us, and it would really help us a lot.
You're welcome. Someone, you want to say something? That you unmuted. Cool. So I have an assignment for you, all of you. You have to. I'll put my email ID here. You all have to plant a plant, an edible plant, something that we can eat, and then send me a picture of it once it starts growing. Cool, that's the assignment.
Sure, sir. We are already doing this under the plantation drive, and all the people present here are already growing plants. And
but edible plants.
Yeah, sir. We have promoted plants that have been provided and authorized by the Ayush Ministry, and have some medicine. Yes, sir. Medicine.
Nice. Send me some photos.
Sure, sir.
You're planting it where?
Sir, we have some people who are planting trees such as mango trees, lemon trees. So they are planting it near their area wherever they have found a place to plant a tree. And other than that, the medicinal plants, they are growing at their places only.
Okay. So if you guys are growing, send me pictures with the name of the plant. Cool. If you have any questions in the future, just reach out to me. You have my email ID and my website also. So you can reach out anytime.
Thanks, Karan. And thanks a lot, sir, for joining us today and providing us a very insightful session. And definitely we will upload this video recorded session to our YouTube channel. And on the occasion of Gandhi Jayanti, we would like to have a pledge ceremony, the Swachhata Shapath Samharoh. So all of you are requested to please unmute yourself and turn on your camera. Sir, please, all of you have to just repeat after me. So please unmute yourself and we can start. Karan, you can share the pledge on the screen, and all the participants, including the speaker, sir, please repeat after me. Please unmute yourself and be allowed. मैं शपथ लेता हूँ कि
मैं शपथ लेता हूँ कि
मैं स्वयं स्वच्छता के प्रति सजग रहूंगा और उसके लिए समय दूंगा। हर वर्ष
हर वर्ष
हर वर्ष
100 घंटे
100 घंटे
यानी हर सप्ताह
जाने
यानी हर सप्ताह
2 घंटे
2
2
घंटे
घंटे
श्रमदान करके
श्रमदान
के
स्वच्छता के इस संकल्प को
स्वच्छता के संकल्प को
चरितार्थ करूंगा।
करूंगा।
मैं न गंदगी करूंगा
मैं
मैं
ना
करूंगा
और ना किसी को करने दूंगा।
मैं किसी
करने दूंगा।
सबसे पहले मैं
सबसे पहले
मैं
स्वयं से,
स्वयं से,
मेरे परिवार से,
मेरे
परिवार से,
मेरे मोहल्ले से,
मेरे
मोहल्ले से,
मेरे गांव से
मेरे
गांव से
एवं मेरे कार्यस्थल से शुरुआत करूंगा।
एवं मेरे
कार्य शुरुआत करूंगा।
मैं ये मानता हूं कि
मैं ये
मानता हूँ कि
दुनिया के जो भी देश
दुनिया
के जो भी देश
स्वच्छ दिखते हैं
स्वच्छ
दिखते हैं
उसका कारण
का
कारण
वहां के नागरिक
वहाँ के नागरिक
गंदगी नहीं करते
नहीं करते
और ना ही होने देते हैं।
और ना
होने देते हैं।
मैं इस विचार को
विचार को
गांव-गांव,
गाँव
गली गली
गली
स्वच्छ भारत मिशन का प्रचार करूंगा।
स्वच्छ
मैं आज जो शपथ ले रहा हूँ
मैं
शपथ ले रहा हूँ
वह अन्य 100 व्यक्तियों से भी करवाऊंगा। मुझे मालूम है कि
मुझे मालूम
स्वच्छता की तरफ यह कदम
यह कदम
पूरे भारत देश को
पूरे
भारत को
स्वच्छ बनाने में मदद करेगा।
स्वच्छ
बनाने में मदद करेगा।
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are.
So let's like complete this session. Thanks a lot, sir, for joining us today. I would like to thank our principal, ma'am, Dr. Rama, our convener, Dr. Kapila Malla, ma'am, for providing this opportunity to us. And I would like to thank Kapil, sir, to be with here and providing us a very insightful session regarding a sense of singular responsibility towards nature. And the most important thing that we can get from this session, that small efforts matter. Not like it's not about teamwork, it's not about collective, it's not about macro level. Even at our individual level, we can have a sense of singular responsibility and we can work towards nature. So really, thanks a lot, sir, for joining us. I would like to thank all the team of Haritima for organizing such a wonderful session. I would like to thank all the participants for joining us. Karan sir, and thanks a lot for Kavita, wonderful questions, and have a nice day. And I hope that today's pledge that we have taken, we will definitely work on it. We will keep our environment clean as well as green. So thanks a lot for joining for us, and we will, like, there is a feedback form in the chat box. Please fill this form. It will act as a attendance as well as feedback form. So thanks a lot, sir. We are looking forward for future collaborations with Edible Roots. We are looking forward to launch a Haritima Vatika series. That is a series for plantation among the college going students, how they can plant the plants, how they can grow their plants in PGs, in hostels. So in this, I think like Edible Roots can provide us wonderful support. So we will definitely reach you about the same. And all the participants are requested to share their experience in the given email ID by Kapil sir. They can visit the website edibleroot.com as well as hrchharitma.com for further like updates. Thanks a lot for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Turn on your please cameras and have a like last screenshot, or you can say a pic. Please, all of you are requested to turn on the camera for a collective screenshot. Karan, let us know once it is done. Please, all of you are requested to turn on your camera so that we can have a collective screenshot or collective pic. Is it done, Karan? Thanks, Karan. Thanks, sir, for joining us. Thanks a lot. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, sir.